I was going to wear a Christmas hat for this episode, but not anymore, because I am neither holly nor jolly. 2 hours. That's how long it took for me to beat the first stage of this game. 3 hours. That's how long it took for me to beat the final boss of this game. Today we're going to play Dragon's Lair on the NES. Until we win. Look, if you don't know what Dragon's Lair is by now, then there's no sense in me explaining just what it is. The original arcade game was a quarter sucker that enticed many a gamer to waste hundreds of dollars just to try and see the next screen of animation. As the nerd put it, you can't get the original Laserdisc graphics on the Dragon's Lair game in an NES cart. So what do? You turn it into a side-scroller. A side-scroller from hell. Look, I like playing difficult games. In fact, the entire series Until We Win is dedicated to beating these hard and nearly impossible games, but Dragon's Lair is just... it's something else, something much more sinister. First off, the control is completely off. I've played both the PAL and the NTSC version of the game, and the control is just horrible. There's a good half-second delay between you pressing a button and something actually happening on screen. Second, Dirk has way too many frames of animation. If you need to turn around, Dirk does this spin move that takes around a full second for him to move. Heck, Dirk takes his sweet time to get into a crawling position or to stand back up. Oh yeah, you also need to press up once you're crawling to stand back up. This is not the type of game that responds well to Twitch reactions. Third, trying to hit anything in this game with your weapon is impossible. Your weapons go sailing over the heads of most monsters or fall horribly short of their intended victims. In either case, you're gonna get hit. Finally, getting hit once kills you instantly. Snakes, traps, dragons, rocks, and even puffs of smoke will kill you in one hit. The only thing that won't kill you are these flying bats and skulls, but they drain your energy bar. Take too many hits from them, and you're also dead. Now, in all fairness, this game probably shouldn't be classified as a platformer or a side-scroller. In fact, it's more apt to call it a puzzle type of game, wherein the player is supposed to memorize all of the different patterns in each stage in order to progress. But let me tell you something, folks. Any game that relies on player memorization of patterns should never have enemies in it that are completely random. But we'll get to that, my friends. Oh, we will get to that very shortly. But first, I've got some tips that are gonna help you not die as much. Don't expect any miracles. The first thing you need to do is get used to how Dirk controls. He's slow and very awkward. If you're used to playing games like Mega Man or Bionic Commando, chances are you're gonna be totally thrown off by Dirk the Daring's slow plotting. Once you press or release a button, Dirk will take a second before he responds to your input. That means he'll take a moment before he starts to move forward, and he's gonna take a moment to stop moving. Believe me, it's gonna send Dirk to an early grave more often than not. Jumping in this game is so damn weird. You can either jump straight up or you can jump in a 45-degree arc. If anything touches any part of your body, you stop jumping and immediately fall to the ground. Trying to jump over something often requires that you backtrack a few feet, then jump forward, even if it's something as small as a ledge. Get used to how your weapon fires. It goes across the screen in an arc and abruptly disappears when it reaches the end of the screen. You can get several different weapons in the game, but the only one worth getting is the axe. Everything else is a waste of your time. There are different power-ups to be found in the game if you activate your candle. But short of getting the axe early on and helping you through the one section of the dungeon where the lights turn off, there's really no reason to go around using up your candle power. Look, let's not mince words here. This game is hard. Like most of the difficult games of the NES era, it's also short, clocking in at only 6 distinct levels, only 5 of which you need to complete, and the first and last levels are actually pretty short in comparison to the other 2. Alright, I guess I've put it off long enough. Let's dive head first into this game. Ah, the castle gates. You might think that this level is really hard, especially if you saw the Nerds review of the game, but it's actually really easy, especially if you have a turbo controller. Start off by walking to the right, forcing the dragon to pop up. Walk back to the left and duck under the fireballs. The timing here is really important. If you're off even by a split second, you'll die. Once the dragon ducks back under the bridge, stand up and fire your daggers at him. If you time it correctly, you'll hit the dragon once and he'll shoot a fireball at you. Repeat until he's dead. Oh yeah, if you have a turbo controller and you manage to hit the dragon before he shoots a fireball, he'll never duck and you can take him out without having to dodge any of his fireballs. After you kill him, walk to the right and enter level 1, inside the castle. In this level, you start off behind 2 prisoners. Carefully make your way to the right, making note of the pattern the prisoners throw rocks at you. They'll throw 2 rocks at you. Simply wait for them to hit the land in front of you, then move forward. Once you're past the second prisoner, stand still and start throwing your dagger. A snake will pop down. If you don't start throwing immediately, you'll die because the snake takes 3 hits to kill. After killing the snake, duck down and crawl under the moving gates. You'll have to spend a little bit of time memorizing the pattern, but it's not too difficult to figure out on your own. Once you've gotten past the doors, stop crawling and start throwing your daggers again. Otherwise, another snake will pop out and kill you. Kill the snake and move forward. Jump over the ledge to the best of your ability and move to the right. Watch out for the prisoner throwing the rocks, he has the same patterns as the ones at the beginning of the stage, and move forward. Once you get past the prisoner, stop and start firing your daggers because yet another snake will pop out of nowhere and try to kill you. Keep heading to the right. Once you drop down, start firing your daggers again because another snake will pop into existence and probably kill you. Now if you're really fast, you can duck under the snake and then try to move past the gates. When you're moving past the gates, be aware of a gap in the middle of the floor. It's easy to miss if you're not expecting it. If you try to crawl over it, you're gonna fall down and die. You're going to need exceptional timing to get through the second gate here. Basically, after you've walked past the first gate, you need to stand up and jump over the gap. When the second gate opens all the way, you can then safely duck down and crawl under it. If you try to walk through it, you'll die. But you'll need to be quick. If you don't move fast enough, the gate will close on you. Also, make sure you time your movement right, as there's a prisoner right in front of the gate. If you time it wrong, you'll walk right into the prisoner's rocks. Keep moving to the right, avoiding the final prisoner of the level, and you'll face the stage boss. The boss is really just a bunch of snakes, but damn is it hard. The first snake will pop up 2 blocks to the right of the sewer grate. Quickly dispatch him, then keep throwing your daggers to dispatch of the second snake that pops up at the far right of the screen. Turn around, move to the left slightly to take out the third snake while avoiding the fourth snake's rocks. Move to the left, just under the 5th snake, turn around, and kill the 4th snake. Jump behind the 5th snake and throw your daggers in the air to kill it. Move forward to avoid the 7th snake's rocks, and start throwing your dagger to kill the 6th snake. Turn around, throw your daggers to kill the 7th snake. Finally, keep throwing your daggers to kill the next and last snake that pops up. Congratulations, you've just beaten the first level. Let's take a moment and talk about the elevator shaft. This thing is devious. In fact, it's downright evil. Look, the idea is simple. You have to get off at the right floor to advance to the next level. If you get off at the wrong floor, well, the game sends you back to a level you've already played. And in our case, that usually means going back to level 0, the castle gates. Isn't that fun? Of course, if you take the elevator all the way down to the bottom, it'll take you to the treasure room, and you don't want to go there. Believe me, it's completely and utterly pointless. You don't need to play the level to beat the game, and it's difficult, so I'm not gonna play it. So there. Now, in order to advance from level 1 to level 2, you need to get off at the second stop, which will take you to level 2, the mine shaft. Start off by going to the right and crawling under the gate obstacle thing. I don't know exactly what it's supposed to be, but it kills you all the same. Continue crawling to the right and scoot under the crushing obstacles until you get to the moving platforms. Remember how we could ignore the bats in the previous level? Well, we can't ignore them here. There are just too many of them. If you're too sloppy, the bats will drain your energy fast. Make sure you kill them along the way, otherwise, you're dead. The moving platforms require some careful timing because of the way they move, how fast they move, how slow you are at jumping, and the fact that this game has zero friction in it. Jumping on moving platforms is extremely difficult. Instead, I recommend walking on the platforms, and keep walking with them. If you stop or try to jump, the platforms will move out from under you, killing you. Yeah, I don't understand it either. The next obstacle is some kind of whirlwind. I'm not entirely sure, but I think its lifting power is related to how much you jump while it has you in its updraft. At least, I think that's how it works. If you continually jump while in the whirlwind, you'll be able to make it across the gap. Otherwise, well, you die. Use the whirlwind to take you to the top of the screen, then quickly move to the right. You should be able to land at the top of the ledge that you can't normally jump over. Move to the right until the lights go out, then press start to activate your candle. And yeah, you press start to use the candle and select to pause the game. Weird, right? Keep moving to the right, and don't worry about how much candle power you have left. There's a refill a little later in the stage. Move with the platform and walk off of it. Don't try to jump, otherwise you'll hit your head and fall to your death. You need to be in sync with the front of the platform so you can simply walk off of it. Continue moving to the right, making sure to get the candle power up and head down. You'll need to walk across 2 moving platforms again, which shouldn't be a problem for you now that you've died enough times. Move to the right and be careful of any rocks that might get in your way. Duck down and crawl to the far right of the screen, under the 2 trolls that pop up out of the minecarts throwing rocks. At the far right edge of the screen, stand up and start throwing your dagger. You should be able to kill the level boss fairly easily. In the next elevator shaft, get off at the 3rd stop, it's on the right, and this should take you to level 3. The dungeon. I'm not gonna lie to you, this one is difficult. When you start moving to the right, the bridge will collapse under you. Keep moving until you come up to a floating skull. Wait for the skull to reach the top of the room, then hit it with your dagger. That will cause the skull to freeze in place, letting you pass by. The next obstacle in your way is a swinging hammer of sorts. You may think that you can crawl underneath it, but surprise, you can't. Instead, you need to wait for the hammer to swing by, then walk to the right as quickly as possible. Timing is essential, and yeah, you're probably gonna get killed a few times trying this. Of course, the next obstacle is 2 hammers. This one is a little confusing at first, but it's not that difficult. The top hammer will swing faster than the bottom one. All you have to do is wait for the bottom hammer to swing by, then crawl under the top one. At the end of the hammer run, you'll want to stand up and walk to the right, because the floor will start to fall away. If you stay crouched, the floor will fall, and so will you, to your death. After you make it past the falling floor, and you make a dicey jump over a small ledge, your next obstacle is a floating ghost. Just wait for the ghost to stop moving, and simply walk past it. After that, you're going to face 2 hammers again, but this time the top moves slower than the bottom, preventing you from simply walking or crawling by. What you need to do is wait for the top hammer to rotate into the background, then walk forward and jump over the bottom hammer. It's difficult, but if you're patient enough, you can pull it off. Afterwards, there's another ghost that you just need to simply walk past, which isn't a problem. But the moving platform does present a significant obstacle. This platform doesn't touch either edge of the floor, so you're gonna have to carefully jump on and off the moving platform. This, I admit, takes practice. After you get past the moving platform, walk past the ghost and you'll be face to face with one of the hardest parts of the game. 2 hammers that swing at the same speed, but at exactly opposite sides. The way to get past these hammers is to jump over the bottom one, duck under the top one, stand quickly, then jump over the bottom one again. And believe me, this is much easier said than done. After you die about 1 billion times, you can move forward, but be careful because the floor gives way and you have to dodge a couple of floating skulls. Just be careful, take your time, and make sure you stand before you reach the edge of the platform, because you can't fall off a ledge while crawling. After that mess, you'll walk by 2 more hammers. They're pretty tame obstacles compared to what you had just gone through, but then you'll come to yet another obstacle that's just balls-achingly difficult. 2 moving platforms, and each of them stops when you jump on them. Oh yeah, and at the other edge of the gap, a floating skull, making an otherwise simple jump incredibly difficult. To get past this section, you need to stop the second platform close enough to the other end of the gap so that you can jump to it, but far enough from the skull so that you can avoid getting hit by the rocks he throws. After you can get the platforms in the best possible position, your next objective is to stop the skull. Because you have to make a long jump, you're going to need as much headroom as possible, so try to stop the skull at the top of his pattern. After you stop him, you'll need to make your jump, but the skull will still shoot out rocks. He shoots out 6 rocks, then takes a pause long enough for you to jump. If you miss the chance to jump, just wait for him to shoot out 6 more rocks, otherwise he'll hit you in midair. After that test of the soul, you'll face yet another set of hammers. The pattern to get past these 2 hammers is similar to the last set: jump, duck, stand up, but you may end up having to jump and duck again because these hammers move a bit faster. After that, you'll come up against another skull. Make sure you stop it at the top of its pattern, otherwise you can't get to the next obstacle, which is another moving platform. Walk over the platform, past the skull, and you'll face the stage boss, Death. This guy can be a pain. The only way I could beat him was to stand at the far left side of the screen where he couldn't hit me with his fireballs. Then, during a pause during the firing pattern, I would jump towards him and fire my weapons at him, hitting him a couple of times. Wash, rinse, and repeat until you beat Death. In the next elevator shaft, take the first stop and you'll be at level 4, the Dragon's Lair. I don't like this level. Not one bit. Dragons hatch out of the eggs on this screen and your objective is simple. Kill them before they kill you. It's a bit more difficult than you think. For the most part, you'll need to be crouching in order to hit these little bastards, and they usually take about 4 hits to kill. It's difficult, to say the least. There really aren't any traps in this level, except for the part where there's a dagger weapon directly in your path. If you have the axe, and you do have the axe, don't you? Make every effort in your power to avoid taking the dagger. This dagger was a mean, dirty trick put into the game to make your life against the end boss impossible. So make sure you jump over it. Finally, after countless deaths and torment, you'll make it up to the final boss of the game, the dragon. If I could interrupt my own video for a second, and I can because it's my video, I'd just like to state for the record that I believe this boss to be one of the single most difficult bosses in the existence of video games ever. It took me 3 hours to beat this boss, and I'm counting just this boss. I'm not counting the innumerable times I had to replay the whole game because this boss killed me 5 times in a row. The worst part is that there's no discernible pattern with this guy. None. He's almost completely random. In a game that forces you to memorize pretty much every pattern in the game, the final boss has no pattern to memorize. It forces you to rely on twitch reflexes. And if you mess up once, you're dead. And believe me, you're gonna die. A lot. You know, at least games like Bionic Commando would give you something to look at, something awesome to see, like Hitler's head exploding. Yeah, but this game, I mean, after hours of torment and just torture and going back to the beginning of the game because you ran out of lives, and then getting up to the final boss and dying 5 times in a row, and then going back to the beginning of the game again. They just give you a congratulations screen, man. I don't know. Merry friggin' Christmas. I hope you enjoy it. I'm gonna take a nap or something.